I've been on drugs. I've been through hell. You know what I'm saying? I did most of the movies on cocaine. All About the Benjamins. I used to sit in Ice Cube's trailer in the morning and be crying.
Mike Epps, the American comedian who carved his name into history. He could turn pain into laughter, turn the stage into a storm. But at 54, the mask has fallen. In a shocking confession, he bluntly said, "I was on cocaine during most of my movies." That single sentence ripped apart the curtain that had hidden the truth for decades. Were those explosive laughs actually the product of a man battling addiction? Why now? Why did Mike Epps choose to break his silence after all these years? This is no longer just the story of a comedian. This is the raw exposure of Hollywood's dark underbelly. Are you ready to uncover the truth? Indianapolis, the 1970s. A young black boy grew up in a cold industrial city where poverty and injustice were not exceptions, but the rhythm of daily life. That boy was Mike Epps. For him, childhood was not filled with laughter, but with the noise of the streets. Suspicious eyes and doors of opportunity constantly slammed shut. Yet even then, Epps carried a unique weapon: laughter. It wasn't just a joke. It was the only armor a black boy could wear when the world wasn't on his side. The turning point came in 1995 when Epps stepped onto the stage of Def Comedy Jam, the same launchpad that propelled Martin Lawrence, Bernie Mac, and Chris Tucker. Instantly, he set the room on fire with material drawn straight from real life. The streets of Indianapolis, the struggles of the black community. Situations both absurd and painfully familiar that every American in the audience recognized. And they laughed. They laughed hard, but they also fell silent, because he dared to say what many would never. Then, in 2000, came the opportunity that changed everything: the role of Day Day Jones in Next Friday. With a budget of just over $9 million, the film exploded at the box office, grossing nearly $60 million. Epps's Day Day Jones instantly became one of the most iconic faces of black comedy. That clumsy yet slick charm lifted him from small stages to a household name. Success followed. Friday After Next 2002 pulled in more than $33 million, solidifying Epps as the ace of the Friday franchise. But he didn't stop there. Hollywood began handing him bigger projects: Resident Evil Apocalypse 2004 and Resident Evil Extinction 2007, global blockbusters that carried Mike Epps's image far beyond the neighborhood to audiences around the world. And then in 2009, his name rang out in The Hangover, the classic comedy that grossed over $467 million worldwide. Even as supporting character, Black Doug Epps left a lasting mark. Once again, from seemingly small moments, he knew how to steal the spotlight. On television, Epps proved he was not just a passing laugh. Netflix handed him the lead in the Upshaws 2021 to present. The show quickly shot to the trending list and earned Epps the 2024 NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Actor in a Comedy Series. This was the moment he officially crossed into the ranks of mainstream star, recognized not only in the black community, but across America. And do you remember the first time you saw Mike Epps on screen, how you burst out laughing? His magic wasn't just in the lines, it was in the raw truth. A black kid from the streets who turned his pain into a weapon to write himself into history. But every laugh comes with a price. And for Mike Epps, that price has never been small. The scandals of his personal life kept his name at the center of controversy. They came one after another, as if the shadows were destined to follow the footsteps of a comedian. A never-ending chain of shocking scandals. The war of words with Shannon Sharpe, a verbal boxing match. In 2024, during a show in the US, Mike Epps suddenly took aim at Shannon Sharpe, the former NFL legend and current host of the podcast club Shay Shay. On stage, Epps mocked Sharpe, saying he looked like Medea, the cross-dressing character from Tyler Perry's films, and hinted that he might be gay. The crowd burst into laughter, but soon clips from the show were cut and spread across social media. Within hours, the hashtag #MikeEpps shot to the top of Twitter's trending list. People debated, was this just raw stand-up comedy, or had Epps crossed the line? Shannon Sharpe didn't stay quiet. On an episode of Club Shay Shay, he fired back directly, "Mike Epps is lying on my name. I don't play that." The American media jumped in immediately. USA Today and multiple sports and entertainment outlets reported on it, calling it the hottest celebrity feud at the time. By early 2025, things escalated further. Epps struck again, this time even harsher, accusing Sharpe of only using black guests to chase views. The drama turned into a battlefield, pulling both sports and entertainment media into the storm. For American audiences, it was nothing less than a verbal boxing match unfolding across the press. But then Mike Epps ended up punching himself not with actions, but with a confession that stunned an entire room. The apology over comments about women, a slip on podcast airwaves. During a sit-down with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson on the All the Smoke podcast while discussing his personal life, Epps suddenly dropped the line, "I've never treated a woman 100% right." The atmosphere instantly shifted. Barnes and Jackson tried to move past it with awkward smiles, but the audience didn't. The clip was quickly cut out and spread like wildfire on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Female fans reacted with unprecedented outrage. So after all these years, this is what he admits. Was that a confession, or was he bragging? Within hours, major outlets were covering the story. Vibe even ran the headline, "Mike Epps, shocking words, leave fans," questioning his respect for women. The backlash grew so strong that Epps was forced to respond. On Instagram, he issued a public apology to his wife, Kira Robinson. That was a reckless and dangerous statement. "I never intended to demean or hurt my wife. Kira is the greatest love and respect of my life." Kira Robinson kept her composure, saying their family was fine. But to the public, his admission left a crack that would not heal easily. In a Hollywood climate already hypersensitive to issues of respect toward women, Epps's words instantly became evidence for those questioning him. Behind the roaring laughter was there always a shadow in his personal life. Just months later, he was caught in yet another scandal, this time not with words, but with a gun. The gun at Indianapolis Airport, 2023. On March 5, 2023, at Indianapolis International Airport, TSA officers scanning luggage discovered a Smith & Wesson .38 special revolver in Mike Epps's backpack loaded with bullets. The news hit the front pages of AP News and CNN. To American audiences, a famous comedian carrying a gun onto a plane was nothing short of a real-life plot twist. Epps explained to police, "I forgot it was in my bag after a long night. I usually carry a gun for protection since I often have cash and jewelry, sometimes without security." The gun was confiscated and the case was handed to the Marion County Prosecutor's Office for review. Luckily for Epps, he wasn't immediately arrested, but the story alone was enough to make him the hottest topic across the media. The press fired off sarcastic headlines. A national comedian carrying a loaded gun in his carry-on. Did he really forget, or was he just ignoring security laws? Late-night shows like Jimmy Kimmel Live and The Daily Show wasted no time turning it into comedy bits. Some hosts even staged skits of Mike Epps walking through airport security with the Next Friday theme song playing, leaving audiences roaring with laughter. But behind the jokes, the incident was a reminder that for Mike Epps, scandal could strike at any moment. If the airport gun story was just an accident for the media to mock, the next scandal would truly damage his public image. This time, it would come as a punch in real life. The assault on LeVar Walker, 2014. When laughter turned into a punch. Atlanta, summer 2014. LeVar Walker, a young comedian, uploaded a parody video mocking Mike Epps and Kevin Hart. The clip quickly went viral within the stand-up community, but for Epps it was no longer just a joke. That night, as Walker left a comedy club, he was approached by Mike Epps and two bodyguards. According to Walker's accusation, Epps punched him straight in the face while his bodyguards rushed in, snatched his phone, smashed it, and broke his glasses. Walker later had to be hospitalized with minor injuries, but was left shaken and traumatized. Atlanta police immediately got involved. An arrest warrant for Mike Epps was issued on charges of assault. The news spread across TMZ-BT and the local Atlanta Journal-Constitution, turning the scandal into a national headline. Public opinion was split. Many sided with Walker, saying Epps had lost control and couldn't handle being mocked. But Epps's loyal fans defended him, claiming Walker had picked the wrong guy by insulting his pride. The silence of Kevin Hart, who was also parodied in the video, only deepened the mystery. People began speculating, had there always been hidden tension between Hart and Epps? Although the case was eventually settled and Epps avoided long-term jail time, the LeVar Walker incident became a permanent scar on his career record. From then on, every time Mike Epps landed in another scandal, the media would resurrect that 2014 punch as proof that he could turn laughter into violence in an instant. But there was another scandal far more serious that struck directly at Mike Epps's money, the law, and his credibility. This was a shockwave in the financial history of America's comedian. Operation Mississippi Hustle 2015, the darkest financial fall of his career. In 2015, Mike Epps' name was suddenly swept into a legal storm nobody saw coming. The investigation, called Operation Mississippi Hustle, rocked the entire country, exposing a web of corruption, money laundering, and bribery tied to Mississippi's private prison system. Among the names listed in the case, the public was stunned to see Mike Epps. According to accusations, he was linked to a kickback scheme, receiving illicit payments and benefits from construction and management contracts related to prisons. The press asked bluntly, why would a Hollywood comedian be caught up in a billion-dollar scandal like this? Prosecutors claimed part of Epps' income came from these shady deals, and he was charged with tax fraud and conspiracy to launder money. The news spread like wildfire. USA Today called it the darkest chapter in Epps' career. When Epps accepted a plea deal in 2015, he lost not only his reputation, but also significant assets. Court records show he surrendered 2 Mercedes-Benz cars, a $310,000 home in Flowood, and a Gulf Coast condo worth $237 million 6 AORs. On top of that, his investments and bank accounts were seized to settle a $1.3 million judgment. As if that weren't enough, while awaiting trial, Epps was hit with yet another accusation, breaking into his former home to retrieve personal belongings. He insisted, "That was my stuff," but police claimed the items were already listed as assets to be forfeited. TMZ covered the story relentlessly, portraying Mike Epps as a comic-turned-criminal in the eyes of the public. Though he avoided a lengthy prison sentence, Operation Mississippi Hustle left an indelible stain. For American audiences, it was proof that Hollywood's spotlight often hides a terrible price. When the laughter fades, numbers on paper can turn into a sentence hanging over your head. And yet Mike Epps still had a knack for drawing attention with bizarre scandals. The kangaroo incident. When the stage turned into disaster in 2017 at a packed show in Detroit, the audience expected to laugh out loud at Mike Epps' familiar bits. But the stage instead became the site of one of the strangest scandals in American comedy history. As the spotlight lit up, Mike Epps suddenly walked out with a live kangaroo. At first, the crowd clapped and roared with laughter, thinking it was just a funny surprise. But within seconds, the excitement turned into discomfort. The kangaroo was visibly stressed, struggling under the blinding lights and the deafening noise of thousands of spectators. A video of the moment was quickly uploaded online. In the clip, Epps could be seen tugging on the animal's paw to create a comedy moment while the handler desperately tried to keep the kangaroo calm. Within hours, the hashtag #kangarooincident was trending across Twitter. Animal rights groups, including PETA, immediately condemned the act. Animals are not props for entertainment. Bringing a stressed kangaroo onto stage is cruel. American media instantly dubbed it Mike Epps' weirdest scandal. On late-night talk shows, hosts joked, "Is Mike Epps trying to start his own circus?" Facing an overwhelming backlash, Epps was forced to apologize. "It was a bad idea. I didn't plan it. I didn't mean to hurt the animal." He explained that bringing the kangaroo on stage was never part of the show, just a spur-of-the-moment idea, and admitted he was wrong. The kangaroo incident quickly became a viral term among comedy fans. To this day, it's remembered as one of the most bizarre and shocking scandals of Mike Epps' career. Hiring a private investigator to track an anti-fan 2025. In early 2025, Mike Epps once again set the media ablaze, not for a new role, but for a jaw-dropping confession during a live stream with popular streamer Kai Cenat. While discussing the pressures of social media, Epps casually revealed that he had once hired a private investigator to follow an anti-fan on Instagram. The live stream chat immediately exploded. Kai Cenat burst out laughing in disbelief. "Wait, you did what?" Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of viewers spammed the chat. "This is insane. Mike Epps really hired a PI for an IG troll. That's not funny. That's scary." The audience was split. Some called it a crazy but classic Mike Epps move, true to his unpredictable persona. Others questioned whether social media pressure had gone too far, pushing a Hollywood star into such extreme measures. The story revealed the darker side of fame, where anti-fans aren't just trolls, but haunting figures that can rob a celebrity of peace of mind. For American viewers, this detective confession felt like a twisted comedy horror episode, so absurd it was funny, yet so unsettling it gave chills. And it closed out a decade-long chain of Mike Epps scandals with an unexpected message: the louder the laughter, the deeper the shadow behind it. And then at 54, he stepped into the public eye not with a new role, but with a confession that left Hollywood in stunned silence. For the first time, Mike Epps tore off the mask he had worn for decades. 54 years old, Mike Epps breaks his silence. After 30 years, it didn't happen on stage nor in a blockbuster film. The most shocking confession of Mike Epps' life came during All the Smoke, episode 222, released in March 2024. At first, the setting seemed like nothing more than a casual conversation with hosts Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. They talked about basketball, about Cat Williams, about black comedy. But then, as the discussion turned toward the loneliness of a performer standing in the spotlight, Mike Epps grew quiet. And then, before millions of viewers, he dropped a line that made Hollywood hold its breath: "I was on cocaine during most of my movies." The room went silent. Matt Barnes lowered his head. Steven Jackson stared in shock. You could feel that moment, like every light, every mic, every camera froze just to capture his words. That confession was more than just a sentence. It ripped open 30 years of his career. The laughs from Next Friday, All About the Benjamins, The Hangover, were suddenly overshadowed by a raw truth. Were those really moments of pure talent, or the laughter of a man high just to survive? Epps didn't stop there. He revealed that while filming All About the Benjamins, he often sat in his trailer, crying, haunted by survivor's remorse, the guilt of leaving behind poor friends back home while he lived as a Hollywood star. And it was Ice Cube who had to pull him aside, put a hand on his shoulder and say, "Stop doing this to yourself, you a king." American audiences split sharply. Some praised him. He's brave. He faced the truth. Others dismissed it. This is just PR. A stunt to keep his name alive when his career has cooled. But one thing no one could deny this was the moment Mike Epps was no longer just a comedian. He was a man stripped bare. And what about you? If you were in that audience, would you applaud the truth finally laid bare, or shake your head at a man who once brought laughter, now revealed to have lived in the shadows? If the stage was where Mike Epps spread laughter, his personal life was where he faced his toughest battles. And behind the scenes, audiences saw very different Epps. No longer just the witty comedian, but a man repeatedly struggling with marriage, children, and responsibility. Private life and marriage, the comedian, who couldn't use laughter to hold his home together. 2 marriages, 2 different chapters of life. Mike Epps first married Michelle McCain in 2006. At the time, the Hollywood press described it as one of the rare, lasting love stories in the comedy world. They met on a film set, spent over a decade together, and raised their children. Michelle was often seen by his side at events, standing quietly behind the stage lights. But real life isn't always filled with laughter. In 2016, as the marriage hit its 10th year, TMZ dropped a bombshell. Mike Epps was caught privately messaging an 18-year-old girl on Twitter. In the leaked DMs, Epps was alleged to have sent flirty emojis and even suggested meeting up. Social media exploded instantly. Fans asked a 45-year-old star married with kids privately chatting with an 18-year-old. Epps quickly responded. He flatly denied any affair, saying it was just harmless conversation, claiming he was just joking around, nothing more. But the explanation wasn't enough. Tabloids dubbed it the Twitter DM scandal. While fans on Reddit and Twitter mocked Mike Epps, never learned how to log out. Michelle McCain stayed silent, but the cracks in the marriage became visible. In 2017, Mike and Michelle officially divorced. The divorce papers became public fodder for the press. Michelle was granted custody of their children, along with hefty monthly support. Epps was ordered to pay $25,000 per month in spousal support for 6.5 years unless Michelle remarried. On top of that, he had to pay $15,000 per month in child support, covering private school tuition and living expenses. The settlement also granted Michelle a fleet of luxury cars, including a 2014 Bentley, a 2013 Mercedes, a Land Rover, and a Prius as part of the divorce payout. The media called it a bitter turn, noting that Epps had often praised his wife in his comedy shows, yet the marriage still collapsed. Just 2 years later, Mike Epps shocked fans again by remarrying Kira Robinson, a young Emmy-winning producer. Their lavish June 2019 wedding in Newport Beach, California, drew a star-studded guest list, including Snoop Dogg, T.I., and many comedy stars. This time, the press called it the rebirth of Mike Epps, a glittering new chapter. Kira, more than a decade younger, brought fresh energy and a modern family image. 7 children, joy and burden. Behind the spotlight. Mike Epps is the father of 7 children, no small number even by Hollywood standards. 6 daughters and 1 son make up a family picture that is both lively and complicated. Bria Epps, his eldest daughter born in 1993, now has a child of her own, making Mike Epps a grandfather by the time he hit 50. Fans often joke on Twitter. Mike Epps is a comedian on stage, but at home he's a grandpa with attitude. His other daughters include Michaela Madison and Mariah, along with 2 young girls he shares with his current wife, Kira Indiana Rose, born 2020, and their youngest daughter born in 2021. His only son, Mike Epps Jr., is seen as the heir to the name, though Epps rarely shares details about the boy to protect his privacy. With 7 children from 2 marriages, the Epps family often appears on Instagram in warm family photos. But they've also become a point of controversy, with rumors about tension between Epps's older children and their stepmom Kira. Family marriage and children were once the safe haven Mike Epps looked for, but as scandals piled up when neither laughter nor home could protect him, Epps was left with only one choice to confront the truth head-on. Mike Epps is not just a comedian on stage, he is a brand. And after more than 3 decades, that brand has been measured in staggering numbers. Mike Epps's $1 million fortune. Mike Epps's current net worth is estimated to range between $5 and $6 million, according to sources such as Celebrity Net Worth and Reality T. At his peak, Mike Epps had everything an A-list Hollywood star could dream of. His $3.5 million mansion in Encino, California wasn't just a home, it was a symbol of success. Nestled in the elite neighborhood of the San Fernando Valley, the sprawling estate featured a private pool, a home theater, and a garage big enough to house his luxury car collection. It was also the family residence he shared with his ex-wife, Michelle McCain, and their children before turmoil struck. But California wasn't his only playground. Back in Indianapolis, the city where he grew up, Epps was considered something of a real estate mogul. At one point, he owned more than 10 houses and small rental buildings, not only as investments for profit, but also as a way of proving he had never forgotten his roots. Local papers wrote admiringly that while many stars left behind their struggling hometowns, Epps poured his wealth back in shaping his image as a son of the soil, loyal to his community. If the Encino mansion was Epps's castle, then his garage was his treasure chest. His passion for cars was no secret. Fans often spotted him cruising through Los Angeles in a Bentley, the ultimate symbol of luxury. Alongside it, his collection included multiple Mercedes-Benz models, a Land Rover for long trips, and even a practical yet sporty 2015 Jeep Cherokee. Among these rides, 2 stood out as prized gems. A classic 1979 Cadillac, a testament to his love of retro American style. Epps often drove it to fan meetups and small events, flaunting a unique kind of cool. A 2011 Suzuki Chopper, not a supercar, but a symbol of freedom and grit. For Epps, the chopper represented his wild, untamed side rarely glimpsed on stage. During those years, Mike Epps spent money like a rapper at his prime $1 million mansions, 6-figure garages, and properties scattered across his hometown. Every appearance reinforced the image of a successful star living the dream. But the glitter didn't last forever. In 2015, when the Operation Mississippi Hustle scandal broke, Epps was pulled into a legal storm. To settle the $1.3 million judgment, he was forced to give up several assets. Compared to his peers, Epps's fortune seems modest. Kevin Hart boasts $450 million, Chris Rock sits at $60 million, Eddie Murphy surpasses $200 million. By contrast, Epps's $5 to $6 million looks painfully small. That doesn't mean he's broke. With $5 to $6 million, Epps still lives comfortably, supports his 7 children, continues touring, and works in production. But clearly, scandals from Mississippi Hustle to his costly divorce burned through a significant portion of the fortune he could have held. New moves in the future. In 2025, with the echoes of his confession still reverberating, Mike Epps surprised the industry by signing a management deal with Artists First, the same company that has represented major stars. It was seen as a strategic move, a rebirth in his career, a new launchpad after years of scandals. That same year, Epps announced the We Them Ones tour, collaborating with a lineup of younger comedians. The tour carried a message of bridging generations and keeping the flame of black comedy alive. On the poster, Mike Epps stood in the center, not as a relic of the past, but as a mentor guiding the next wave. He did not stop at stand-up. In 2025, Epps also returned to the big screen with Trouble Man. For the first time in years, he took on a leading role in a feature film, an opportunity to break free from the shadow of comic relief side characters. For Epps, this could be the last chance to prove he still has the strength to compete in today's Hollywood. Beyond his career, Epps turned more attention toward community work. In June 2025, he organized a free concert in Indianapolis, his hometown. Thousands gathered in the square not only for music, but to witness the prodigal son return to his roots. It was seen as an act of redemption, a declaration that Epps wanted to give back, not just take. All of these moves show that despite the storms of scandal, Epps has no intention of stopping. He knows the road ahead will not be easy, but with the survival instincts of a black comedian, he is ready to keep laughing even if the audience is not always laughing with him anymore. At 54, Mike Epps is no longer the wild comic, whose only weapon was humor. He has become a controversial figure, both a testament to resilience and a cautionary tale of showbiz pitfalls. Mike Epps once had it all: laughter money, million-dollar mansions, luxury cars, a beautiful wife, and loving children. But he also lost more than most assets: seized marriages, shattered reputation, eroded. His story stands as the clearest proof of Hollywood's paradox, where laughter can be turned into gold, but scandal can burn through that gold in an instant. The question remains, will American audiences forgive him, or will they see this as the final chapter? For some, Epps showed courage by speaking his truth. For others, it was nothing more than a desperate grab for attention. And it is in that middle ground that Mike Epps's image will remain forever debated. One thing, however, is certain. Mike Epps has left his mark on American culture, not only through laughter, but through the haunting question of what that laughter truly costs. And that question perhaps will continue to echo long after the stage lights go dark.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.